Item Number SCP-Y-048 Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-Y-048 manifests unpredictably across FM radio frequencies and various audio devices, making complete containment infeasible. The Foundation prioritizes early anomaly detection, immediate signal suppression, and comprehensive mitigation strategies to minimize its propagation and exposure risks. Global frequency surveillance and suppression. A Foundation-directed global frequency surveillance network, Project Dead Air, continuously scans for SCP-Y-048's distinct acoustic and waveform signatures. Upon detection, automated frequency jamming systems and dynamic signal scrambling algorithms are deployed to override SCP-Y-048 transmissions. In high-risk urban centers, mobile containment teams utilize localized electromagnetic dampeners to further inhibit signal dispersion, containment, and neutralization of affected devices. Any device transmitting SCP-Y-048 is considered irreversibly compromised and must be secured, neutralized, or destroyed. Compromised equipment is transferred to Site Y-1's subterranean anomalous object containment sector, housed in vacuum-sealed, anechoic isolation chambers, designed to prevent residual sound wave propagation. If containment proves unfeasible, affected devices are subjected to complete thermal incineration or molecular disassembly to prevent reactivation. Personnel safety protocols. Personnel assigned to SCP-Y-048 containment operations must be equipped with Class 4 noise cancellation headgear and are strictly prohibited from engaging with unverified radio transmissions. Individuals exposed to a full SCP-Y-048 broadcast must undergo a mandatory 24-hour cognitive quarantine, during which they are closely monitored for perceptual distortions and reality inconsistencies. Should an affected individual exhibit signs of irreversible cognitive degradation, immediate termination is authorized to prevent further anomalous assimilation. Digital and public suppression measures to prevent SCP-Y-048's dissemination via digital and analog platforms, Foundation-controlled AI web crawlers, Project Dead Air. Systematically monitor global networks for SCP-Y-048 related discussions, lyric transcriptions, and unauthorized recordings. Upon detection, all flagged content is immediately erased, and civilian reports of anomalous transmissions prompt rapid investigative deployment. Individuals confirmed to have been exposed receive Class C amnestics, with indefinite detainment enacted in severe cases where amnestic intervention proves ineffective. Description: SCP-Y-048, designated Jolly Johnny Candidate, is an anomalous, swing-era jazz or doo-wop song that manifests spontaneously through FM radio frequencies, analog and digital recording devices, and any medium capable of radio transmission. The song's instrumental composition and vocal arrangements remain consistent with mid-20th century American jazz and big band music, though each instance exhibits minor variations in ad-lib phrasing. The lyrics remain unchanged, recounting the increasingly surreal and logically incoherent experiences of an individual named Johnny, culminating in his apparent transition into a non-Euclidean reality described as, quote, a place that makes no sense. SCP-Y-048 exhibits mimetic and reality-altering properties, capable of rewriting stored audio data within a 340-meter radius of an affected device. This extends to CDs, cassette tapes, vinyl records, digital music files, and analog recordings. all of which become irrevocably converted into SCP-Y-048 transmissions. This effect spreads recursively, ensuring that once a single device is compromised, all proximate audio storage media also becomes permanently affected. Attempts to analyze SCP-Y-048's composition, vocal structure, and instrumentation have yielded inconclusive results. While spectrogram analysis confirms traditional jazz formations, embedded within the sound wave structure are harmonics that exceed the normal range of human auditory perception, indicating an extra-dimensional acoustic signature, trigger conditions, and playback anomalies. SCP-Y-048 does not conform to predictable manifestation intervals and cannot be deliberately summoned. Instead, transmissions occur spontaneously, often in environments where FM radios or audio devices are actively in use. Notable incidents include a 1937-era radio in an antique shop broadcasting SCP-Y-048, despite being non-functional and missing internal components. A cassette tape, retrieved from an abandoned home, containing only SCP-Y-048 in place of the original audio. A jukebox in a vacant diner, which autonomously played SCP-Y-048 despite being unplugged for decades. Affected devices remain perpetually locked in SCP-Y-048 playback. Even when destroyed, residual traces of SCP-Y-048's melody persist as low-frequency vibrations in surrounding environments for several hours post-neutralization. Effects on listeners. Individuals who listen to an entire SCP-Y-048 transmission, whether from direct radio play or a corrupted recording, undergo a 24-hour period of extreme perceptual distortion, cognitive instability, and reality dissonance. These phenomena are uniquely subjective and are not perceivable by external observers, rendering verification impossible. Documented anomalous effects include 1. Perceptual breakdown and reality distortion. Objects appear to melt, warp, or momentarily disassemble when not directly observed. Urban environments shift between different architectural styles and time periods, fluctuating between the 1940s, futuristic cityscapes, and impossible non-Euclidean geometries. To name just a few, witnesses experience momentary erasure from existence, with bystanders reporting brief flickering, where the affected individual disappears for fractions of a second before returning. 2. Cognitive and somatic effects. Subjects report proprioceptive abnormalities, including the sensation of floating, extreme limb elongation, or grotesque bodily inflation. Temporary emotional dysregulation manifests as a sudden burst of aggression, elation, or confusion, usually only lasting a few seconds before fading. Instances of temporal displacement where individuals claim to observe past or future versions of their environment, sometimes interacting with anachronistic figures or objects. 3. Johnny's Domain. At least 67% of affected individuals report an episode wherein they experience a vast void filled with distorted jazz melodies and floating sections of mismatched land that shift illogically between states of solidity, shape, or size. Upon completion of the 24-hour cycle, all individuals disappear entirely, leaving no physical trace. These individuals are presumed to have been fully assimilated into Johnny's domain. Theoretical implications. The purpose of SCP-Y-048 remains uncertain. Current research presents two prevailing hypotheses. Predatory anomaly hypothesis. SCP-Y-048 functions as an autonomous, extra-dimensional entity, designed to lure individuals into Johnny's domain. The lyrics serve as a cognitive conditioning mechanism, acclimating listeners to increasing levels of reality instability until assimilation occurs. Reverse adaptation hypothesis. Rather than being predatory, SCP-048 may instead serve as a means of identifying and transitioning individuals predisposed to experiencing altered states of reality. If this is correct, Johnny's domain may act as a sanctuary or holding space for such individuals, rather than a prison. Regardless of intent, SCP-Y-048 remains an active existential threat, capable of permanently removing individuals from baseline reality and altering physical environments in unpredictable ways. Interactions with SCP-Y-025 Earworm. Recent cross-experiments have demonstrated that SCP-Y-025, a separate memetic auditory anomaly, possesses the ability to overwrite SCP-Y-048's transmissions. When SCP-Y-025 interacts with an SCP-Y-048 broadcast, the following changes occur. SCP-Y-048's reality-disrupting effects are completely nullified. The musical structure and lyrical composition remain intact. Y-025's memetic influence replaces Y-048's reality-bending anomalies. Listeners develop obsessive admiration for the music rather than experiencing cognitive and reality degradation. Y-048's capacity to assimilate individuals into Johnny's domain is disrupted, though long-term Y-025 exposure introduces its own behavioral compulsions. This discovery has led to active discussions regarding Y-025's potential utility as a countermeasure. However, given Y-025's own cognitohazardous nature, its application as a containment tool remains under rigorous ethical and procedural review. Incident Report Y-48-7. Date: January 17, 2000. Location: Radio station, Detroit, Michigan, USA. At 03:42 hours, an unregistered FM transmission of SCP-Y-048 was detected, broadcasting from station 104.3 FM, a local jazz radio station. The host, DJ Carter, had been running his usual late-night program when the station's automated playback systems were forcibly overridden. Live audio logs indicate Carter initially reacted with amusement, assuming the song was a misplaced archival recording. However, within 3 minutes of exposure, his speech began to slur, and he expressed confusion over the room's shifting geometry. At 03:47 hours, Carter's breathing became erratic, and he began describing his hands stretching infinitely as he tried to reach for his microphone. At 03:49 hours, he abruptly stopped speaking. Security footage from inside the booth showed Carter flickering in and out of visibility, phasing between multiple positions within the room. At 03:51 hours, he vanished completely, leaving behind only his headset and an active microphone still recording dead air. At 03:52 hours, all FM receivers within a 2-mile radius began playing SCP-Y-048 in perfect synchronization, despite no station broadcasting it. A full containment sweep and radio shutdown operation was enacted within 30 minutes, but DJ Carter remains missing, presumed assimilated into Johnny's domain. Luckily, there were very few inhabitants or vehicles within the 2-mile radius of DJ Carter's radio station. Incident Report Y-48-1. Initial discovery of SCP-Y-048. Date: December 15th, 2000. Location: Sector M6, Provisional Reality-Y-1. Reporting Officer: Lieutenant Daniel Hawthorne, Mobile Task Force Zeta-0, Bad Bunch. Summary: during a standard reconnaissance and anomaly retrieval mission within Sector M6, an unclassified anomaly, later designated SCP-Y-048, was encountered in a mysteriously undamaged jazz club, a stark contrast to the surrounding cityscape of M6, which remained in a state of extreme devastation. The structure showed no signs of wear, decay, or reality erosion typical of Provisional Reality-Y-1. standing as if untouched by time or anomaly incursions. Inside, a Zenith brand portable FM radio was discovered sitting atop an intact wooden bar, playing a swing-era jazz recording with no apparent power source or batteries. Initial contact with the radio led to catastrophic exposure events among MTF Zeta Zero personnel, preliminary exploration, and anomalous discovery. At 2100 hours, MTF Zeta Zero's non-anomalous squad, Temporary Task Force Theta 12, was dispatched to investigate and secure the structure. Upon entry, squad members observed the following anomalies. No dust, debris, or damage anywhere inside the club, despite the absolute ruination of the surrounding city. Freshly set tables, with clean glasses and silverware, as if awaiting guests. A functioning ceiling fan rotating slowly, despite the lack of any detected power supply. Muffled jazz music emanating from the portable FM radio on the bar, despite its absence of batteries or external power. Theta 12's communications officer, Sergeant Raymond Ortiz, approached the radio and attempted to adjust the tuning dial. Upon physical interaction, the volume increased significantly, and the jazz composition playing abruptly looped back to the beginning of the Jolly Johnny Candidate song.
Oh, Johnny boy, oh, Johnny dear, things ain't right, but don't you fear.
Exposure and psychological breakdown. By 2107 hours, multiple Theta 12 personnel had inadvertently listened to the song in full, triggering an immediate onset of SCP-Y-048's cognitive and perceptual anomalies. Affected individuals reported extreme temporal disorientation, describing a sense of being in, quote, multiple decades at once, buildings outside shifting in style, flickering between the 1940s, a distant future, and impossible non-Euclidean shapes. Perceptual looping, wherein squad members claimed they had already explored the club multiple times, despite objective reality contradicting their assertions. Reality displacement, where individuals experienced falling in place, hovering inches above the ground, before returning to normal. Auditory hallucinations, primarily of unseen patrons applauding, clinking glasses, and laughing in a distorted, slowed-down manner. Sergeant Ortiz was the first to disappear at 2112 hours mid-sentence. Helmet camera footage showed his body flickering out of existence, replaced by a brief distortion resembling sheet music shifting across an invisible waveform. His squad mates experienced no audible sound of his departure, only the continued jazz melody. Containment and evacuation. At 2115 hours, recognizing the anomaly's escalating threat, Theta 12 squad leader, Lieutenant Daniel Hawthorne, ordered all personnel to cease auditory exposure, activate noise-dampening protocols, and evacuate the building immediately. However, several team members had already succumbed to SCP-Y-048's influence. Corporal Anya Fisher attempted to, quote, dance, along with figures that did not exist inside the jazz club, moving in perfect synchronization with unseen partners. She was forcibly restrained and removed from the premises, but her helmet feed continued broadcasting an imitation of her inside the jazz club, dancing with shadowy figures. Private Elias Monroe was found standing perfectly still in the middle of the club, eyes unfocused, swaying gently as if hypnotized. Attempts to move him were met with immediate environmental resistance, as if some force was keeping him in place. Lieutenant Hawthorne himself briefly experienced auditory distortion, with his radio crackling in and out before broadcasting his own voice, speaking in past tense, warning of a, quote, trap we walked into. By 2120 hours, emergency response teams enacted a containment lockdown around the jazz club's perimeter. Surviving personnel were extracted, sedated, and placed under 24-hour cognitive quarantine. 3 MTF members were successfully retrieved, though 2 additional operatives vanished within 30 minutes of initial exposure, presumed assimilated into Johnny's domain. Post-incident analysis. Following the extraction, the Foundation deployed remotely operated drones to further assess the club's interior. However, the Zenith radio was no longer present. The interior remained immaculately preserved, with no indication of the earlier struggle. Surveillance feeds continued to flicker between decades, overlaying images of patrons, musicians, and Theta-12 operatives who had disappeared. Personnel exposed to SCP-Y-048 during this mission were monitored for 24 hours, with 3 subjects undergoing complete cognitive disassociation and vanishing at precisely 21:12 hours the following day. This incident marks the first confirmed case of SCP-Y-048's manifestation, solidifying its classification as a cognitohazardous, reality-altering anomaly. The Jazz Club remains under permanent Foundation quarantine, designated Containment Zone M6-48. Entry is strictly prohibited, and all future engagements are to be conducted exclusively via drone reconnaissance. Final observations. SCP-Y-048 continues to elude full containment, manifesting unpredictably and expanding its influence through both physical and digital means. Incident reports suggest that its recruitment efforts are escalating, targeting larger populations and displaying an increasingly aggressive means of assimilation. One particular incident, involving SCP-096, the Shy Guy, SCP-Y-020, Harlequin, and SCP-Y-048, resulted in both SCP-096 and Y-020 entering Johnny's domain. Through means unknown, SCP-096 was able to exit, making it the only known instance of anything escaping the non-Euclidean realm. No further details regarding this event are contained in this file, as they are documented under the New Incident Reports section of SCP-096's file at Site-Y-1. Until further breakthrough containments are made, SCP-Y-048 remains a top priority, existential, and potential K-Class auditory threat. This is Director Waller, signing off on another report at Site-Y-1. I hope you'll consider subscribing to stay up to date with our latest findings. I eagerly look forward to having your audience in future reports.
You just need some brand new friends. Listen, newcomers, listen up clear. Your time to join Johnny is almost here. If you're listening to this song, you were a Johnny candidate all along. Let's step into the place that makes no sense, so we can all become Johnny's new friends. Oh, Johnny boy, Johnny dear, you're not alone, so don't you fear.